anytime we aren't asking ourselves those questions because so much of the beauty standard has become almost non-optional. I was just quoted in an article from Business Insider called "Being Hot is Now a Job Requirement." And it's we've been through this cycle a couple of times.
Welcome to the Lara Jane Layton Show. This podcast is for you, the person who keeps putting others first. Your self-talk has held you back. You no longer need to take a second seat. Let's explore ways to overcome self-doubt. You can silence that inner bully voice and achieve your full potential. Here's your host, Lara Jane.
Welcome to the show, friend. My new best friend, Gretchen, is here with us today, and we are going to talk about beauty. Where did we get the measurement of beauty? Where did it come from? Why do we think certain things are gorgeous and other things are ugly? And how things have changed through time? And what has this digital world done to our expectations of beauty? And why do we want to be beautiful? There's so much in this one little subject. And how do we become comfortable with who we are and be thankful that we exist in no matter what shape or form we are? It's our inner beauty that counts. And so Gretchen's going to help us understand this. And I'm really excited because I can learn from this. This is an area I don't focus on a lot. So I'm excited. But before we get started, we're going to get a quick word from our sponsor. When we come back, Gretchen, help me understand all the pressures behind this beauty. We'll be right back.
This is Adam Adams, co-founder of Optimized LLC, where we take the guesswork out of your health. If you're feeling exhausted, struggling with weight, or just not feeling yourself anymore, your hormones might be the problem. And that's why we test, not guess. Analyzing your blood work to pinpoint exactly what's holding you back. At Optimized LLC, we help you rebalance your hormones, boost energy, and reclaim your life. Don't settle for normal. Aim for optimized. Just go to optimize.com to book your free introductory coaching call. It's a free call to help you take the first step toward feeling your best.
All right, Gretchen, the information about you is in the show notes. And I'm stoked because, you look at the ages. At one time, plump women were the beauty because it showed the men were wealthy and could afford to feed their women. And then all of a sudden, they're like itty bitty skinny with no muscle and just bones. And it's changed so much. But recently, it's even changed more. So help me understand all these recent changes and why they're so important to somebody.
Yes, absolutely. So, as you're mentioning, beauty standards have always been a part of people's lives. But what's unique now is that we have a single, universal, international beauty standard that's being created by AI, driven by AI. And these filters that people use on social media, Instagram, TikTok, but there's even one on Zoom. It's called Touch Up My Appearance. And by handing over the way that the body looks, the way the body should look to these filters, we're asking AI to make modifications to our noses and our breasts and our legs that has spread internationally. My students in China think the same thing about beauty now as I exhibit this artwork in the UAE, and I've taken this to Korea, and I've taken my work all around Europe and America and South America. And what we've seen is this compression of diversity into a single idea. And as we'll get into more, this is being very much driven by these AI driven filters that people use every time they're on a screen. And so now what we have is this AI driven beauty standard that adapts us to look good on a screen, that commodifies the self and really eliminates who we are.
So when you say AI's got these algorithms to make us beautiful, who made up that standard to start with? Is it that we don't look natural on video and so they're trying to help it? Or is it that they're trying to change us so we feel better about ourselves?
So there's definitely an issue of the training set that these algorithms were programmed with. But I think the more interesting point is that we've become so used to seeing ourselves and other people on screens as tiny itty bitty faces where we want to communicate that we are three-dimensional, but a screen is a two-dimensional space. So the lips get inflamed and the male jaws are becoming pointier. And this is happening because we are trying to communicate our full three-dimensional body in a screen and then prioritizing that that screen, how we look on that screen is more important than how we feel and how we look from the side because the big lips people might like from the front, but almost nobody likes them from the side.
I do know that a lot of women do have fillers, and they've chosen to. I call them kissable lips. I think they look so kissable and soft. It's like, "Whoa, I want some of those instead of these little tiny things." But I've never considered doing it myself.
I think a really interesting point that you're touching on here too is in this conversation, I don't want to introduce any shame or any judgment around somebody who does decide to get fillers or plastic surgery or use a digital filter. But I believe that beauty should always reflect a love of self. And if you're doing something because it's fun, because you're enjoying it, great. But if you're doing it because an algorithm is telling you that you're not enough and that you need to do this, we've entered a totally different mental space and also a beauty arms race where we're being sold both the problem and the solution and are being demanded that our time and our money go towards fixing this problem.
I always look at it as, would I do this if I never left the house? And it's like, I tell my husband, yes, I would still have red hair even if I never left the house because it makes me smile when I look in the mirror. I like it. Does anybody else? I don't care. It's fun. And so, what is it that makes you feel like the best you? And if it's Botox, fillers, plastic surgery, that's okay. What is it that you want to shine about you?
Yes, and I think anytime we aren't asking ourselves those questions because so much of the beauty standard has become almost non-optional. I was just quoted in an article from Business Insider called "Being Hot is Now a Job Requirement." We've been through this cycle a couple of times. It's impacting men. Men in Silicon Valley are getting more facelifts and eye lifts and different surgeries than ever before. And this cult of youth also plays into it, where the venture capitalist Peter Thiel famously said, "Never fund anybody over 30." And so now Silicon Valley is aging, and these men are like, "Whoa, I thought that was cool when I was 25, but now they're 45 and they're feeling those same pressures that are so traditionally associated with the feminine."
Well, and there's only so much pressure it's going to put on me. You know, I'm older. I've been this same look forever. And so when I look in my phone or something, I feel like I look like me and I'm not trying to look more enhanced. But what is this doing to our younger generation? The next us's that are going to take over the world. This is what they're being raised with. They think they need to look this way to be successful.
Yeah, and so we have basically this chain where there are filters, Facetune, the images change how we look maybe on Instagram. But then we look in the mirror and that's not how we look. So people are increasingly going to plastic surgeons and being asked to look like these digitally modified versions of themselves. And we see this with celebrities. The diversity of celebrity faces has completely disappeared in the last decade. More and more celebrities are looking like each other. There's less of that unique face and body that we're seeing. And so young people, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, and they're looking at images of faces and bodies that literally do not exist. They have been so digitally modified by these algorithms, by these filters, that they're scrolling and they might see a photo of Kim Kardashian, followed by a photo of themselves, followed by a photo of their friends, followed by a photo of a different Kardashian. And so we're not separating the context. Celebrities are no longer on the big screen We are seeing these impossible beauty standards and internalizing an expectation that we're failing if we don't look like that. And sometimes these bodies, they literally don't exist. They've been pixels that have been moved around. And that body dysmorphia, the depression, the connection to teen suicide, there's a lot of research that's come out in the last 5 years that really shows that even when we intellectually know that people can change their images, makes us look at ourselves in the mirror and say, I am not enough.
Mm, that's sad. And I think I told you, like, I grew up with Barbie. She's impossible to be like in real life, but she was only in my playroom. She wasn't in my face all day long while I was outside playing or watching TV. I guess maybe when I was watching the superhero movies, there were those unrealistic bodies, but it wasn't everywhere. And my neighbor didn't have a filter on her when I talked to her. The person down the street didn't have a filter on. And now that's what we see. I've got a handful of AI enhanced photos that I took because I thought it was fun, and then I did it because, oh my gosh, how cheap is it to have all these different outfits? For $10, I have a whole portfolio, that's what they call 'em. And my daughter said, "But mom, when I see them, I don't see your teeth." And I went, "Are my teeth that bad?" And I didn't even think about it, but to her, that's what she noticed, is my teeth were different. And I thought, "Oh, they look so much like me. They're just teeny tiny differences." And I've used almost, well, not all of them, because some of them were awful, but a handful of them. And I feel like I'm presenting me until my daughter told me that, and now I second guess it.
So I work primarily as a fine artist, and within the history of portraiture, we're always looking at trying to capture a likeness. What makes the essence of you? How do we communicate that? And it's very elusive, but we do know that what happens with these algorithms is you lose it. Whatever it is that makes you distinctly you is the first thing it's going to get rid of. It's the first thing it's going to normalize. It's the first thing it's going to compress into this single international idea. And what I love about your story is that it's fun and it's convenient, but it's also really erasing a lot of who we are. And so a lot of my work is saying, how do we make people see these invisible erasures? Because what it's doing is showing a lack, right? It's not showing the scars of what happens with that. Like, I mean, I had braces, I had so much orthodontia, and I remember the pain that I went through to get that, the pain, the financial investment, all of it. And what is happening now is people might like their new LinkedIn photo, but then they start to feel self-conscious about how their faces actually look. They get worried about job interviews and online dating and seeing people in person. And so that very insidious idea that they need to start making physical changes to reflect these digital avatars is where we get a massive industry of insecurity. I'm sure many of your listeners have read Tina Fey's book, Bossypants. It's more than a decade old at this point. But in it, she talks about how when she grew up, if you were either pretty or not, and if you weren't pretty, you developed a personality and went on with your life. But now we're expected to pay our way out of these perceived problems. It's not just that there are problems, there are fillers, there's plastic surgery, there's filters, ways to try and fix this problem. Whereas I think that's kind of new, the amount of solutions that the market is now offering women.
I mean, some of them go for it. I really don't care if people use it or not. I'm gonna use it occasionally, whatever. Like, I'm not against it, but I'm against people not feeling like they're enough. And that's the part that makes me sad, is that we feel that pressure to be different, to be liked, because our old additives from caveman days said if you're not part of a tribe, you get kicked out and you die. We don't need to be liked. And if you are worried about being liked, have it be your soul, not your body. Like, love you how you are. find something about who you are and be thankful for it and tell it thank you. If you can only like, my eyes haven't changed a lot. They're still the same color. If that's all you can do is like, "Thank you, eyes, for being there for me." Whatever other parts of your body, we change. Pregnancy changes our bodies, and people have postpartum depression, not because their bodies change, but their hormones are screwed up. But they do focus on, "Oh, no, I'm not skinny enough yet." It's like your hips change, your body changes, things gravity pulls us down, and it's okay. But somebody told me, "Those are my war wounds. Those tell me I've lived life." It's like, "Oh, if I could only think of them that way."
Let's true is we've started to really think about our bodies and our faces in particular as almost being like a high-end handbag because these filters make us all look the same. And I've been working with the Miss Universe contestants, and they're all so beautiful. They're from all over the world, and they should look different. But even they feel these pressures to have Miss Jamaica feels like she needs the same body as Miss Philippines, who needs the same body as Miss USA, and it's such an absurd idea that our bodies should fit these literal and metaphorical shapes, and I just like the idea that we need to remember that we're making a choice here, that there's so much pressure, but that commodification of the face. I don't just see a desire to be beautiful, I see a fear of who we are, of being seen for who we are. And that's something that we all go through it in many cycles of our life, but we're not going to fix it with a nose job. We're not going to fix it with a digital filter. And as soon as we start using these as tools to fix something about ourselves that really needs to be fixed on the inside, we end up in an endless cycle where you get the lips done, get the nose done, and get the boobs done because things feel out of balance and we don't find the solution in those modifications.
So how do we fix it on the inside?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know I said it earlier, but I believe that beauty should always reflect a love of self and that there's such a difference when we're doing something for fun than when we're doing something out of insecurity. And so the inner work of how it is that we love ourselves is usually not quick work, but I'm a big Louise Hay fan. If you got to start somewhere, I'd start with her books. And then, great resources like your podcasts and other guests that you've had here. I think the first act of saying, "This is the journey I wanna go on. I want to learn to love myself more." And even if you think you love yourself, I promise you that you can love yourself more, and electing to go on that journey and start finding those resources will come to you because there are a lot of them out there.
Wouldn't it be cool to never have those days where, "Ugh, I'm being so stupid." It's like, "Hell, my brain is giving me hiccups. This is fun." You know, to find the good part of when we feel off. It's the thing that I dropped something, now I feel like a klutz. It's like I've started trying to giggle about it instead of going, "Ah." It's like, "Oh, there, I dropped something. Let's see if I do it 2 more times." Because they always say you're gonna do it 3 times. Since I started doing that, I don't. I don't drop it 3 times. I just the once. And it's funny how just that change in perspective or change in mindset can take away that issue. I'll tell you, hands down, I had absolutely hate for my body, my face, my everything 10 years ago. That I didn't like me. I didn't like the package I presented. And it's taken a lot of work emotionally to be okay with being different, to be okay with not having a model body and to present like I am instead of being ashamed and hiding. And it's not all the way over. I still think, "Oh, what if I stood up? They would see my big belly." It's like, guess what? It's okay. You know, it's my wounds. It's the things that I've gone through. It's my protection. It has done me well to protect me up to this point, and it's okay if it leaves, and it's okay if it doesn't. And that's when you're finally okay with yourself. Where it's okay if it changes, and it's okay if it doesn't.
And what are some things in that journey that have really helped you?
Louise Hayes, absolutely, I've been listening to her for years, but that one I was driving home from work, listening to the Esther Hicks Abraham tapes. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
I am.
And Abraham said, "You cannot expect anybody else to love you if you don't love you." And I thought, I do love me. But my husband thinks this and this and this, and he's always picking on me. No, he wasn't. He would say something. I internalized it to be picky. He's always been supportive. He's always been great. But the way I changed his words, I choose to have them be derogatory because I didn't like myself. That's when I started my journey, one thought at a time. It's like, I will not react negatively next time this is said because it's not meant the way I'm taking it. And I started changing one little tiny layer at a time. And I know I have more layers to go, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with the layers I have, and I'm okay with the layers that have left. And that's when you feel more at peace.
One of the things I always try and tell people too is, per I didn't know that I could feel this good. I think that's really what I'm trying to encourage friends to get into therapy or to explore some of these different pressures. There's a lot of different schools and beliefs about how much we have to understand where it comes from or what we need to do about it. But ultimately, there are feelings of feeling better and understanding that a lot of us did not grow up with the influences that say you are enough and that we are in an algorithmic environment in which we're constantly being told we're not enough so that we'll buy more things to make ourselves seem like we're enough. And we can all live in this world and not have it be impacting us as much. But to understand that we've been living, unless we've been intentional about it, it's insidious. It's become part of our self talk, our self beliefs. And we're talking here a lot about the way we present on a screen, the way we're seen professionally, and how much time do we spend in the mirror saying, I love you? How much time do we look into our own eyes, as Louise Hay says? And her book on mirror work, I think, is so important in this conversation. Because even in this conversation we're having, I'm looking at you on a screen, you're looking at me on a screen, and our expectations of how we look have changed. This isn't a camera, it's a set of algorithms. And when the new iPhone comes out, it's not better because it's got more pixels in it. We've been able to make billboard size photos of ourselves for 10 years now with the iPhone. What changes in the new iPhone's camera is the algorithm, is how it processes our face and our body, which is why if you take the exact same photo with 20 different cell phones, you're going to get a different photo because every digital photo is algorithmically processed and choices are being made. And our expectations are in this constant motion because we can't even begin to look at ourselves in the mirror as much as we look at ourselves on a screen.
And that takes me back to pictures of the moon.
Oh my gosh, the Samsung thing?
It's like when you take a picture of the moon and you're zooming in and all of a sudden you go, "Wow, my camera's so cool. Look what it can do." That's AI. That is not your camera doing really cool things.
It's also not
That's
the moon.
that's a picture faked out of everything, and I used to think, "Oh, man, her camera is so cool," and then you get it and you go, "Oh, it's not real." And we do that to our faces, and if you don't know it's not real, you go, "Wow, she's doesn't have a flaw on her head." And until we can go, "There are no flaws. We're just us." We don't worry about "Oh, my fingerprints, that other person's look like moons and mine look like hills, and I want those fingerprints." Nobody does that. Why do we do that to our faces?
I mean, the pressures are real. I also really wanna validate the pressures that people feel, especially professionally, especially as women, I worked at Google, a while ago back in 2010 before I became a fine artist, and one of the reasons why I left is I was seeing tech used to manipulate our attention and sell us things we don't need, and I believe in it as a tool of personal transformation, of connection, like what we're doing right here. across time and space. What I had experienced at Google is I literally had in one of my reviews, my manager told me I needed to dress more presentably. And what's so terrible about this is I did start to go into work in a hoodie, brushing my hair less because I was being hit on all the time. So I was desk dressing intentionally defensively, but also no different than the men. The men were allowed to wear kilts and not shower for months, and I literally in one of my written reviews was told that I needed to dress more presentably. And at this moment, I realized that I was playing a game that I could not win, that I was playing somebody else's game. I was in a corporate structure where I was being sold the idea of inclusivity, and nobody who had designed that had thought about how that would be different for women or different for people of different backgrounds. And I needed to get out and to become an artist because the rules had to become my own. And I mean, I don't know. I don't hear that that's changed a lot. I don't think the complexities of that role for women have changed a lot. But I do know that when there are women in power, when there are women executives, when there are role models, it does change for individuals. And I know a lot of our listeners probably feel exhausted by the amount of work that they do for that crusade. But I also know that when I had left Intuit before I went to Google, I had an amazing female manager, and it completely changed my life and my ability to work in that environment. And it didn't have to be industry wide. It was micro and made me realize when I was at Google in a different environment that this was not okay. And I think knowing that as a young professional is one of the most challenging things, is knowing that you do not have to put up with this.
That's such great insight because we don't. And yes, it may take a job change. I was in a toxic environment. I chose to move. Someone says, "How do you know that it's not going to be toxic there?" And I go, "I don't, but this place wasn't always toxic. This place used to be the best place to work until these few people came, and I'm not putting up with it." It's like, done. And we have that ability anywhere to change where we are. And I know that our financial desires of success and stability can sometimes hold us back. And if you have to stay there while you're job searching, that's okay, but move to an environment that edifies you, not changes you.
Yeah, and in that process, believe in better, because I think that when you throw in the towel and say it's not gonna be better anywhere else, part of what our internal talk is saying is that I don't deserve better. And the self-love and deserving are very intertwined with all of this. And it might not happen immediately. We might not be able to make that leap the next day, but to believe that something does exist that will reward you for you and make you feel okay, we're definitely not going to find it if we don't believe in it. Or, build it ourselves to the extent that a lot of women who've left tech have.
I was I've been in tech since my late 20s when I went back to school, got my programming degree, all that stuff. But I'm older than you. It was way different. But when I was first, like, that we were called data processing managers, not information services, because you just process data, right? But when I first got into that executive, I'm the leader role, there were no other women. They were far and few between, but in the meetings that I went to, I was the only woman. I did that plural. Maybe I had lots of personalities. I don't know. But at the same time, it isn't that way anymore. There are others, and the armies had to go through it. The civil services like police and fire and, they've all dealt with this. Women are now in the environment, and how do we make it work? And it's still tough for some of them. They still have a hard time because men should do this. But when you know you're capable, when you know this is what you want to do, all that crap that other people say can just wash off like a water off a duck's back. But let me tell you about water in ducks' backs. It doesn't just go off their back. If they don't take the time to preen their feathers, that's popping those little oil ducts and pulling it across the feathers, they don't do it, they get wet just like everybody else. Take your time to preen. Protect yourself. Do the self work. Do all those things and let the water roll off once you've done
I had no idea that's how duck feathers work. Thank you for informing.
it. Yeah, they take them, they just bite the little ducks and they pull it out. You'll see them sitting there pulling on their feathers. That's what they're doing. They're distributing the oil so that when they get wet, it falls right off.
Yeah, it's such a great analogy or visualization because it takes practice, and it's important to see that there are changes and solutions. And I know we're always wanting to think about the world that we could be having. And that's why I think believing in better is so important in this.
Yes. It is better. Every day, it's better because you change it. Beautiful. So, and then the other thing is it's not a one-time fix. It's like going to the gym and getting to the point where you finally have a six-pack and then not going again. You don't keep your six-pack if you don't keep going. You don't keep being loving and kind with yourself if you don't keep practicing it. What triggered me today? How can I respond different? And choose your responses instead of the reactions. I used to get triggered when my husband would tell me somebody else was pretty. Oh, look how pretty she is. I felt like he was telling me I was ugly. And it was just, oh, I would just blow up and I'd go, why is beauty so important? Until I realized how I was internalizing what he was saying. And I got to choose my response. I was choosing it before. I just didn't know I was reacting based on the insecurity within myself. But when I could go, oh, he's acknowledging somebody's taking care of themselves and that they're presenting the best they can. And we can all do that. We don't have to be that other person's pretty. We get to be our own pretty.
And that confidence, people can really tell. And it really, the sort of persona of someone who loves themselves and has that confidence, they do look better. It's hard to explain why, but that glowing, some of these women who have had a lot of modifications or are feeling insecure because they've digitally modified themselves and then are afraid to appear in the world because they don't actually look like their photos. You can also feel that insecurity. And, if we're going to spend the time and money to modify ourself with filters or to get plastic surgery or to get fillers, why not spend the time and money on the inner work? Because it lasts way longer. It is constant, but you need it less frequently than Botox. It's also a subscription model, but it does decrease the amount you need over time.
Yes. And I'm so with you. I know people that have Botox for headaches. I know that if and when I get it, I don't have squinty eyes and I love my big eyes. But does that mean that I'm stuck having it for the rest of my life? It's my choice. I get to pick. Do I want to be able to not squint driving down the highway because the lights are shining in my eyes? Which one do I want? It's up to me. And we all get to pick. So I picked to squint.
I think we're seeing there's such a difference in the developmental state of an older brain or adults, whereas teenagers and younger people are getting these sort of modifications. And what's funny is we're supposed to be emulating their 18-year-old faces, but they still feel the need to engage with these processes increasingly. And their bodies are under a certain evolution. And of like, oh my gosh, my middle school years were extraordinarily awkward, right? And those changes that are happening physically, but also mentally. It happens to us through puberty and it happens to us as we age, where we do have to develop a new relationship with our bodies. It happens through pregnancy. It happens to men to some extent, but it's different. The female body goes through many different ages and different cycles where we have to get reacquainted with it. And so we can't, even if we do these modifications, we can't lock ourselves in because time and our body are going to change no matter how much stuff we inject into it. And so to constantly know that we have to get to know our new selves, I think as women, we have to see it as an advantage because it helps us understand the multiplicity of everybody. When on one day we feel one way and the next completely different, they're all ourselves, but they do root us in this experience of constant transformation.
And constant transformation is okay.
Same.
Like, it is. Look at the pain that a caterpillar goes through to become a butterfly. It isn't, I mean, they dissolve, come back together. Thank goodness we do not do that. We get to choose how fast we change and how much pain we want to endure. And we get to choose if we even want to. We can stay in whatever place we want. Our bodies, our hips are going to get wider. Our breasts are going to start to not be as perky. Maybe our butts change. We change, but you don't have to be upset about it. You don't have to feel like you're getting uglier. So life is what we choose. And I know that someone's going to say, I didn't choose
Yeah.
this life. My husband will argue with it. I didn't choose this. But how we respond is our choice. And so it is our choice. And if we want to stay in line and get all the filters, that's okay. It's your choice. If you want to go through life without it, it's okay. It's your choice. Just don't let society pressure you. Gretchen, this is a subject I have not touched on in this depth before. And I really appreciate your knowledge and especially the social pressures that are happening to our younger generation. I know it's important that we're okay, but if we're not okay, we're not going to pass that on to the younger generation either. And so the more confidence and the more okay you are with who you are, the more it's going to help spread to those people below us. But I would love to hear a little bit more about I know you're a fine artist and you have all over the place and train. I was like, okay, so what does Gretchen really do? And if I wanted her to help me feel beautiful, is she there for me?
Yeah. So my big series right now is called Facetune Portraits. And in this, what I do is I have a special printer that can reproduce photographs in oil paint. It's a lot like when you get a photograph printed on a birthday cake. And while that painting is still wet, I give it to a special robot that is given a Facetune filter. It's given a beauty filter. But because the robot applies the modifications on top of wet paint, everywhere the digital filters would move pixels around to make my nose shorter or my lips bigger, the robot makes a mark and a scar showing that our bodies are different from these AI ideals of what we're supposed to be. So it allows us to see this process. It allows us to see what these impacts are. It allows us to talk about them as scars, as marks, as the ability to see the invisible in technology. And the way I like to support my community is to say, okay, well, when you see this happen, when you see this process be so physical and so violent, how can we have a different media literacy as we look at social media, as we look at the news, as we look at celebrities? Like celebrities use these, the Miss Universe contestants use these. Like if these famously beautiful people don't feel like they're enough, shouldn't we stop trying? Because if they can't do it, like what are we doing trying to be perfect? And so my work gets exhibited all around the world as paintings where we get to have these conversations. And I'm very thrilled to be taking that outside of the fine art world. We're loving doing it in museums and galleries and at art fairs. I also think this conversation is so much bigger than art, and that when we see invisible technologies, we're a lot more empowered and we understand we have the agency. We can choose differently.
Well, that would be so interesting to see because you know it's being done, but you look so close to you that where is all the fixes that they think I'm broken?
I'm very aware of it now because I did this a lot with my own image, and so I know by heart everything that AI thinks is wrong about me.
And do you know it's just wrong? I think you're perfect.
Yes, I it was so funny. I was doing a TV segment yesterday and they said, "Oh, do you have a good side? Is there a side you'd like to be on?" And I said, "I know that each of my sides is very different. I don't know which one is better." It's like
There's not a better,
no,
just
exactly. I just
different.
said literally wherever
I
you put
know.
it to me.
It's just like, it's just different. You pick. Which one do you like better? I'll do that.
Exactly. Well, I've got a dimple and a mole on one side and nothing on the other. I tend to prefer the one with the stuff. It's all, these different ideas of who we're supposed to be. Like to also see some of the absurdity of that because we deep down know that we're individuals and that we're beautiful. And that's why all this stuff feels so bad. It's
Yeah.
not actually in alignment with how we know very deep down it should be and that it is. So when I have the gallery opening, we like to really celebrate that, and we give everybody a sash that says Universal Beauty and or ball gowns, and I love to dress up, I love to look nice, and to also give people an excuse to do that and to celebrate who they are.
That is so cool. That's fun. It's like, okay, now I'm gonna go find that Zoom filter you talked about and see what I look like. I
Yeah, it's
I
like here somewhere.
I'm sure it's probably AI will be able to tell me where it's at, so.
For sure, yeah.
So what do you think if I could only do one thing to help change my own image of myself this week to start finding that inner beauty?
I'm gonna steal again from Louise Hay and say, "Go to a mirror, look at yourself in the eye, say your name, and say, 'Laura Jane, I love you and you're beautiful.'" And just see how it feels because it's amazing how bad it can feel sometimes because we fight it.
We're gonna look in the mirror and look at our eyeballs.
Yes.
You know how often I look at my eyeballs when I'm looking at the mirror? I'm looking at everything else. It's like,
So
unless
true,
I
like
have
talking to
something in my
times.
eye.
Trying to get my contacts in, yeah.
All right. So take a moment, look yourself in the eye, and tell yourself thank you. I love it. Thank you so much, Gretchen, for being with us and for bringing your wisdom. To know that beauty is only what we make of it.
Thank
So
you for having
you are welcome. Friend, Gretchen and I are not medical or mental licensed professionals. We're here for entertainment. People that have been on a path and found a way to walk on it just a little bit safer. And if we can share that wisdom with you, we're here. So thank you for joining and stay tuned for the next episode.
Are you tired of waking up exhausted? You are not alone. If you're looking to take your life back, let's start with the simple step of adjusting your self-talk. Stay tuned for the next episode with your host, Laura Jane. Remember to follow the show so you don't miss the next simple step that you can use to feel more confident. And please leave an honest review.